the links to Sports Channel here, but join to become a member over us, subscribe to our Cash App, and become the various other links to check out the Telegram and Odyssey. So Mark Hamill supports the current thing. I definitely do not support the current thing because the same people who knew about Weinstein and applauded him for, 30 years support the current thing. I am not a current thing enjoyer. So this is a wee bits of a tricksy video to make because YouTube won't allow a nuanced conversation with hot words. Thank God that Google bought YouTube, and actually that was the worst thing to happen. Well, it's good and bad because the other side of the sword is that Odyssey and BitChute and all these other sites started to arise, and Rumble is very good, but if anything, I think Odyssey is more likely to be the next big thing because it is dedicated to free speech, and it's not dependent on the App Store where Rumble more so is. Though honestly, like I don't use the Rumble app at all. I just use the internet, so I don't use the apps for a lot of these things. Anyway, so what happened? Well, Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, is in a video, or also the Joker, talking to the Ukrainian guys, and they have a flag in the background with pagan symbology on it. What does it mean? The truth of the matter is, with many things, you'd have to ask the people themselves precisely what that flag meant to them. People don't want to do that anymore because nuance is apparently a far right-wing value. But it was enough to trigger the Twitter brainwashed idiots, which is what Twitter is full of. Why are they triggered? What did Mark Twain say? People get more upset about things they know nothing about. They're heavily invested in an emotional response about things that literally the communist media told them to be invested in. Bullshies tell them what to believe, and when you point it out, they have an emotional response. It's stimulus reaction. They never actually stop to examine why they think they know the things they know. It's that basal level, the what's that? Right on top of the spinal cord, that the base lizard brain thinking where it never goes, the prefrontal cortex. Why are the Twitter soy boys so upset? Because they don't read books. I mean, that's the short answer to a lot of this stuff is they don't read books from a wide spectrum. They have a narrow, limited scope, a very carefully curated scope. I've read Engels and Lenin and all these. You go, so have you read the opposition, the other end of the spectrum? Why would I read those? There's only one viewpoint. So I mean, you're just a useful idiot. You're just a left-wing useful idiot. They don't read books. They watch Hollywood movies about things. Hollywood's a Bolshevik propaganda machine. I say that as someone vaguely on the right in some regards. If you're on the left, maybe you'd call them a capitalist machine, whatever. But you can admit that they're not truth tellers. It's Hollywood is fiction. Like I think whatever you want to call them beyond that, you can say yes, Hollywood is fiction. It's a fictional view of the world. It's what their motive is. The right is going to say one thing, left is going to say one thing. Yeah, but I think both sides would agree. Yes, Hollywood is telling you what Hollywood wants you to know. It bears no relation to the truth. All they do, in my opinion, of course, is push anti-Christian, anti-white, anti-national hatred. They're globalists. They destroy nations. It's in the world. It's the binary of globalism versus nationalism. That's the goal of globalism, to open the doors and turn the West into a commercial zone controlled by financial institutions and big tech, where Google, Facebook, Twitter, Chase Bank, Wells Fargo, MasterCard, all the payment processors, the financial institutions, and big tech really control the country because they can in a digital world, they can remove you from that digital world. It's like CNN can dox you and destroy your life in an instant. So you don't have the rights you think you have. Those rights haven't been around in like 30, 40 years. And I only say this because that's exactly what they've been doing. These useful idiots who don't read books get outraged when you explain that you do read books and the book history bears no relation to the Hollywood narrative. And really for them to be like caught up to task on a period of history that they think they have this core knowledge of because Hollywood taught it to them, and they read 3 books in high school on it, and then they read 3 books in college on it. And you go, really to have a balanced approach to this, you'd have to take 2 years and read. And like, yeah, I'm just going to watch Hollywood movies and play video games. I'm comfortable knowing what I know. I don't want to open up that knowledge to alternative opinions. So they get outraged when you explain that there's like hundreds of these books that say differently than what you've been led to believe. All in all, Hollywood is of course fiction. They lose their mind with rage when you tell them Hollywood is a lie, because that's 90% of their knowledge of a subject. Then when you point out it's a lie, they go to Wikipedia. Oh, speaking of this, so this is a literal Bolshevik globalist terrorist telling you lies, telling you that these symbols mean a certain things. They don't. He's lying to you. These are mostly European symbols. I can look at two of them. I can say yes, two of them are as you say, but the other symbols are just pro-Europa Norse mythology symbols. In fact, the first one in the upper left-hand corner, that's a symbol for life. So, and this person, this is a literal Bolshevik terrorist who's telling you that any in-group preference for tribe Europa is going to be haram, wrong thing, but in-group preferences for every other group is allowed. This person is lying to you because they're a Bolshevik terrorist. Anyway, but they lose their mind when you tell them, yeah, Hollywood's a lie, because 90% of the things they know is coming from Hollywood. And then they go to Wikipedia, and they like when you finally boil it down, like if you have a truth telling moment with them, they realize that like, oh, all their knowledge is coming from Hollywood and internet sources written by other useful idiots like themselves. They don't read anything, or they read a very limited scope, a very carefully curated approach to a subject, but they trust Hollywood or the government schools to tell them about something. Like they'll read Spielberg's, or they'll watch Spielberg's movie. What's it called? Schindler's List, right? And you go, actually, I got the book sitting on my shelf right now. I'm trying to look for it. I can mail it to you if you want. It's called Schindler's Ark. Make sure you read the book. Ah, no, the movie's fine. Or, I mean, it's based on a book. You can read the book if you want. And I'm not saying the book is true or false. It's just a book. It's like you have no way. You have to cross reference sources. It's like, oh no, the movie's fine. That's all I need to know. Okay. I mean, it's like, but you know what Hollywood wants you to know, but you don't even want to read the source material, which would take you like 3 hours, 4 hours to read. That's that's unfortunately asking the impossible. So like I said, they read through books about something, but then when you point out, there's like I've got 300 other books that present a counter opinion, but because Hollywood didn't validate it, they refused to even consider the idea. It was like when you're a little kid, you think of a hamburger as a McDonald's presentation of a hamburger, and then your mom says, "Oh, we can make a hamburger at home," and you don't want that because you have the media programmed you into thinking McDonald's hamburgers. And then as you become an adult, you're like you wouldn't eat fast food even if you're hungry. You'd rather just go hungry and fast. And you're like, it's a good day to lose weight. I'm on the road, and all there are fast foods. Like, you know what? I'm just gonna fast today and lose a little bit of weight, because that there's, without the programming, without the TV programming, fast food is poison, and like you would kill for somebody to, oh yeah, fry up a hamburger and serve it on a piece of toast or something. It's like that's infinitely better than anything you get in a fast food restaurant. Anyway, in fact, the weird thing is the emotional response that these adults have been trained to have when presented with an alternative take. They're brainwashed to think this if-then statement: if Axis powers, I have to use a euphemism for YouTube, then kill, punch, destroy, because the media told them to. That's the only correct worldview. Always punch Axis powers. You go, oh, what? But is reverse true? How dare you say it? Like, the communists have a pretty serious body count. You know what they did to Ukraine, the Holodomor? Oh, we weren't taught that. Oh, why weren't you taught that? But it's not important right now. Really? Some history is important, but other history isn't important? That's programming. You're being programmed. You're being taught what to think and not how to think. You ask them why they feel that way. How do they know what they think they know? And you'll get the same violent response. Oh, you must be Hugo Boss. I must do violence to you without thinking about it. Because they've been brainwashed out of their higher thought processes. They're at the base level of stimulus reaction. There's no higher cognition going on. They literally can't have a discussion with you on topics. Their programming is that deep. If you try to have a chat and explain the old adage of being able to argue both sides of an issue, that if you don't know your opponent's argument, then you don't know your own, they will react emotionally. They really don't know their opponent's argument because they don't even know their own. There's a study that did that showed that the right wing is more familiar with the left wing's worldview than the left wing is with the right wing's worldview. Hollywood and the schools too. And there's another study that did, the more TV people watch, the less able they are to discern between fiction and reality. Hollywood and the schools, to a lesser extent, taught them the approved narrative, and they will not deviate from it. It terrifies. They have an emotional response if they deviate from it. Modern schools are simply teaching kids what to think and not how to think. If you were in a class now and you wanted to know the other side of the story, like what was the history from the Axis side, not the Allied side, the brainwashed useful idiots would panic. The students in the class would panic, and they would yell at you in class and threaten you for daring to use your mind to think. It's like, I just want to be a true liberal, a true intellectual, and examine both sides of an issue and make up my own mind. It's like, no. If you don't believe the government, the blue-haired cat lady teacher's view on history, or the carefully curated books in your scholarship, side of history. It's like, well, I want to know both sides and make up my own mind. No, making up your own mind. Those are far right wing values. It's like those are liberal values. What happened to you that you got this subverted and corrupted? Anyway, that's when you know you're not in a school. Where you are is you're in an indoctrination center. Oh, we're going to send we're going to send these, they're going to send us to the gulags. Your kids and you've been in the classroom is a gulag. You've been in the gulags for the past 70 years, ever since post-war. Like, what do you think those classrooms are? Those are the brainwashing centers. A real classroom would have people argue both sides of an issue or examine why the media is so biased. And there's no saving the school system in America. The only answer to that is homeschools or small-based nationalist neighborhood schools or something just like a counter to the globalist indoctrination. There's like schools are way beyond saving. America is so far away from the possibility of real scholarship, not from government schools, that there are small private school networks that try to be balanced. And what happens when they form these networks where you're not teaching the indoctrination? The media calls them dangerous far right, extremely extreme, because they try to present both sides of an issue. Far right wing values are a balanced approach. That's how brainwashed by the media people are today. The narrative of the left is they consider themselves intellectuals, which is so effing laughable. But when you actually examine their scholarship, their, what is it, pedagogy or something, you realize it's all propaganda. You can present them with a stack of books and they recoil in horror, or really they would not even engage with you in the first place because Hollywood told them that different opinions are far right-wing values and they should run away from diversity of thought. They're trapped in an echo chamber. They're programmed to think a certain way, and if somebody presents counter information, they're far right and need to be centered. It's censored. It's this if then flowchart for them. So you ask them how they know what they know, and they say Hollywood and government schools. Then when you ask them, have they examined the source material and then the bias of the sources, the authors? Who were the authors? What's their political stance? How are they affected by this situation that they're writing about? Who are they? What's their bias? Are they listing their bias up front? And you go through many of these books and realize like, yeah, they're not listing their bias up front. And then you read the books and they're like, but it's clearly a biased presentation and you're not saying that you have a bias. Anyway, their brains shut off. You can see the light in their eyes switch over. They go into stimulus reaction mode because to actually engage in discourse and free thought is they know they'll get attacked by their own side for it. It's that if alternative opinion, then Hugo Boss, and their solution to that is immediately use ad hominem, deflection, and straw man attacks. They're terrified to actually engage, and that simple flow chart of ad hominem, deflection, and straw man, you can see that repeated all over social media when they're presented with a counter opinion because they don't want to engage with the opinion because they're scared to because they might reach a different conclusion. It's like, well, that's part of life is taking in new information and reaching new conclusions. Like your opinions are supposed to flow and evolve over time as you take in new information. But in the past 20 years, post the events of that, on the coast, the East Coast, the towers events, things in America changed in terms of diversity of thought pretty seriously. So I've seen it a few times at a protest where the left-wing crowd is giving interviews with the far right-wing, extremely extreme Hugo Boss YouTube media, and the handlers will walk over and they'll try to shut it down. I saw it once with these Antifa girls. They tried it, and a left-wing black guy was talking to the far right-wing media, and he told the girls that he was capable of speaking for himself, and he continued to talk to the reporter. It was like Elijah Schaffer or Dershowitz or one of those guys. The girl just stood around and wrung her hands. She didn't know what to do with a disobedient slave. They really are terrified of free speech. Globalism cannot survive in a free speech environment because people will eventually make connections that the globalists can't allow. So eventually free speech has to be censored. If you don't fight for free speech, if you don't fight for your rights, you will lose them, as you see in America right now, or in Europe also. Is it Count Dankula and his little dog? So anyway, so you got arrested for your dog? Yeah, that's right. Oh, I think your country needs a revolution and perhaps a Bill of Rights. Because, yeah, you should be able to make videos with your dog saluting the TV or whatever his dog was doing. You're fighting for democracy in Ukraine, which means billionaire Zelensky is shutting down Christian churches and stops the press. So what exactly are you fighting for? If Zelensky can remove your rights when he wishes, then he's the tyrant that you should be removing from power. and remove the tyrants that support him. No, no, no. Hollywood told me that tyranny called democracy is good, even if it includes arresting Christians in the media. So what exactly are you fighting for? Fight your government first before you're worried about Russia. Keep in mind, I'm a far right-wing Hugo Boss because I say free speech must be defended. Free speech is now a far right-wing value, which is fine. I mean, challenge accepted. Next thing you'll tell me that protecting kids is also a far right-wing value. You know who wanted to protect kids from groomers who want to give them cross-sex hormones and castration? The extreme Roman saluting right-wing alternative types. So please, by all means, keep pushing the message that the side that wants to give mastectomies, elective surgery, elective mastectomies to girls is the progressive side, opposed to the extreme far right side. And if the right wins, they'll stop you from mutilating boys' genitals. That's such an amazing message that the left wing is normalizing that I can't believe that they're spreading this narrative for free. The progressive left wing globalist side supports sterilizing your children. What's next? You're going to say that there's a death cult making sacrifices to Moloch on an island with a temple on it? Nobody would believe such a far right wing conspiracy theory. Oh, it actually happened? Oh, and then his secret organization, the shadow government that must not be named, deleted him in prison. Epstein in prison, and then his partner Brunel in a French prison. Same thing happened. Cameras turned off. The guards were bribed, and this shadowy organization deleted them. That all actually happened. Yeah. But the media blew the story. Oh wait, the media didn't cover it. Yeah, that all actually happened. The media didn't cover it. So the one guy who was covering this kind of stuff, Mr. Isaac Cappy, I guess he deleted himself. Oh, that's weird. That's weird. So, you think it's weird that big channels don't talk about this kind of stuff? Like, this is a small YouTube channel. It's 3,000 or 2,000 people. BitChute channel and an Odyssey channel, that kind of stuff. Very, very small footprint. But channels that have a bigger footprint, like 10 times the size, it's like as the bigger social media footprint goes, the less they cover, the more they pull back from stories like this, where you don't see like a channel with 100,000 on Odyssey or BitChute, like a Salty Level or a Styx Hexenheimer. Actually, he's got a really big footprint. They don't cover anything edgy. It's like they're just trapped in this golden cage of subscribe to our donations and all this kind of stuff. But if people don't cover important issues, how will we resolve those important issues? Oh, the machine doesn't want you to resolve those important issues. They want you to stay in that. It's still silver or lead. You can stay in the golden cage, or you can Epstein yourself. It's your choice. Like, I think it's important to cover these issues. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, support channel, subscribe to Cash App, buy me a coffee. And no, I didn't Epstein myself. People always say that, like these conspiracy theory types who are bringing out important information to go, if anything happens to me, I didn't Epstein myself. It's like, and then they get Epstein. You go like, yeah, but who's going to investigate it? The corrupt media or the corrupt government? There's no political solution to any of this, is there? No, of course not. I mean, because like those people literally do get Epstein all the time. There's like 4 of those crypto guys got deleted last year when the whole crypto thing, the whole crypto Revolver actually did some good stories on the crypto thing. The Sam Bankman-Fried, remember Bernie Madoff? Looks exactly like Bernie Madoff. The Sam Bankman-Fried story broke, and then 4 other crypto guys were in hiding. They had bodyguards, and they were still deleted. All 4 of them. Isn't that weird? No, I mean it's not really weird. It's like it all actually happens. All this stuff actually happens, and you're like, I got to go back to the grill, and sports is on. Don't you know that sports is on? There's a sports ball team playing. Yeah, for the love of God. Yeah, totally get it. Anyway, serious thanks to Vegan, LG, and Mr. Awake, and everyone else on Subscribestar and the other links. And I will see you guys all next episode.